Good afternoon, everybody. I guess it's not afternoon yet. It's 11 o'clock. Good morning, guys. 10 Tampa Bay meteorologist Grant Gilmore here with you this morning. Just starting things up on the Facebook Live. Give it a couple more minutes to gather some more folks to come in, and we'll talk about the latest advisory that just came down from the National Hurricane Center. I'm trying to get to all of your comments right now, so just give me a couple minutes and hang tight. You can look at the satellite here in the meantime, and then we'll get going here momentarily. Okay. All right. I think we're good now. Got the comments rolling over here. See a lot of you saying hello. And Tracy saying, where's it going? That's the question. We'll talk about that. We'll build up. Let me explain what we're seeing right now and what we're working with, and then we'll talk more about where it's going and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and start with the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center. So this is the 11 o'clock advisory. The new number is just coming down. The storm's moving to the northwest at 20 miles per hour, so it's still moving pretty quickly. And it is sustaining winds up around 60 miles per hour. So wind speeds really haven't changed all that much over the last few updates here, but it's moving. It's about 50 miles southwest of Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. So it's getting closer to potentially making landfall on the DR this morning. A little bit closer look there. You see the satellite imagery is starting to be a little bit more organized. You can see that relatively organized convection or thunderstorm activity associated with the storm, though most of it is on the northeastern side of the storm. This is just a different satellite image. You can see how those thunderstorms are beginning to bubble up and be a little bit more organized, but still on that northeastern side of the center. If I point out, the center is roughly right around here. So that's where our center is right now, and a lot of that convection is on the northeastern side. Puerto Rico, even though the storm didn't make landfall there, has just been pounded with really heavy rainfall, gusty winds all morning long. There's been flash flooding going on in many spots across Puerto Rico this morning, and they're going to continue to see those waves of very heavy rainfall and gusty conditions as the storm tracks to the north and west. Like I mentioned, a large storm, tropical storm force winds extend out 415 miles from the center of the storm, and as the storm tracks to the north and west, we'll likely see that condense a little bit, even though the wind speeds are probably going to be stronger as it approaches the coast. But still, it's going to be a fairly large circulation around the center of this storm. Here are the latest forecast models. The big question this morning is it going to go overland, or are we going to see the center of the storm redevelop north of the storm? And that's a big question mark that we're still trying to wait for the answer for, because that will ultimately determine where the storm tracks. You see some of the forecast models still taking it farther to the west. That would be indicative of more land interaction, moving over more of the Dominican Republic, Hispaniola, Haiti, and then into Cuba, whereas an easterly track kind of keeps it away from land. It allows it to be over the water more, allowing for a stronger storm, but would obviously keep it away from land as well. So west, yeah, we don't want that. That's more of an impact potentially for us here in Tampa Bay, but an easterly track would mean a stronger storm, but less impact for us here in Tampa Bay. Here's the latest track. See, I see a lot of you just saying, get right to it, Grant. Come on, show us the latest track. The track is very similar to the 5 o'clock advisory track. The only thing really that has changed with this is that because we've moved forward in time, the cone is smaller at the point to where it would be moving through our area. So that means more of the Tampa Bay area is out of that cone of uncertainty. Now, remember, the impacts can still extend beyond where the cone is located. The cone just represents where that center of the storm is forecast to go. We're still looking at a strengthening tropical storm, almost to the point of hurricane strength. Hurricane strength would be 74 miles per hour. The forecast has it up to a 70-mile-per-hour tropical storm as it approaches Florida Saturday into Sunday, as it looks like it could be moving up the east coast of Florida. And then, maybe even looking at more of an impact potentially up to the Carolinas as the storm continues up to the north, and then ultimately to the northeast. Let me show you this. I think this map gives you a better idea of what we're working with in terms of our chances of seeing tropical storm conditions and when that would happen. This is a probability map and when you're more likely to receive tropical storm force winds. So right now, Tampa and the immediate Tampa Bay area, really looking at around a 10% chance of receiving tropical storm force winds. So that would be anything really above 40 miles per hour going into Saturday evening. So that Saturday 8 p.m. line kind of goes across South Florida. So we're looking at a Saturday evening time frame, and then it's going to be tracking to the north. So we'll see. At this point, though, the trend is farther to the east, and that would mean less and less of an impact for us here in Tampa Bay. So that includes everybody around Tampa Bay, Hillsborough County, Manatee, Sarasota, Pinellas, Pasco, Hernando. Now, if you're in Polk County, obviously you're a little bit closer to that storm just because you're closer to the east coast. You're farther east. A slightly better chance, but still you're looking at it probably a 10 to maybe 20% chance there in that far eastern part of Polk County of seeing some of those tropical storms. I do want to show you kind of the steering here with this system, what's dictating what happens to this storm. Again, the next 12 hours are really going to tell us a lot about where this storm is as it starts to move toward Florida. If it hangs on and doesn't really have much interaction with the Dominican Republic and Haiti, then we really start to see it strengthen, and it's steered by that ridge of high pressure. Now, that ridge of high pressure has kind of been pushing it more to the west. That begins to weaken and push to the east through the day tomorrow. Also, this area of low pressure, it's a trough of low pressure coming in from the Midwestern states. That will help lift the storm more to the north. So that's why we start to see more of that northerly turn that would be taking it potentially near the east coast of Florida or steering it away. Now, if it's a stronger storm, it's going to bite into that ridge of high pressure a little bit more and probably go a little bit farther east. So, again, a stronger storm lends itself to more of an easterly track with Isaias as it tracks to the northeast, and then ultimately that low pressure system or that trough is going to steer it farther to the north. But depending on the whole relationship between the timing and the strength of the system will determine on exactly where that system goes. So that's just kind of a brief explanation of why we're confident or fairly confident there's going to be that turn to the north. A lot of it, though, depends on the strength of it, and that's based upon how it survives the next 12 hours or so as it navigates around Hispaniola. So here in Tampa Bay, this is what we're looking at here is we're still a few days out. We're still looking at potential impacts not arriving until Saturday evening. So we got a few days here for the models to fine-tune things, and honestly for the storm to work its way around kind of a complicated time period for it where it really could get messed up a little bit because of the high terrain there over Dominican Republic and Haiti. But the trends continue to the east. So that trend that really started yesterday evening has continued overnight through this morning, and now we're looking at more and more growing confidence, I should say, for that easterly track. And that would mean that we might see a hurricane out of it. But at this point, the forecast from the Hurricane Center, that official forecast doesn't call for a hurricane at this point. I don't want to start saying, hey, we can let our guard down here in Tampa Bay. 24 hours ago, we were looking at it potentially moving through the area. So here we are today. We're saying, oh, look, it looks better. We're not in the cone as much anymore. We could see that shift again tomorrow. So we've got to keep our guard up, keep checking back on the latest forecast and those updates, and we'll make sure we keep you guys posted. But again, those impacts likely would be Saturday into Sunday. Let's see. Jeff saying, even though, it'll be gone by Sunday and Monday. Yeah, it looks like it starts to move out. We still could see some impacts into Sunday, but certainly it looks like the storm would be clearing out by Monday, worst case scenario. But that said, this sort of opens up a new flow of some tropical moisture coming up from the south, so it looks like we actually get into a rainier pattern next week, regardless of what we see from Isaias over the next 3 or 4 days. Angela is saying, what is the European model saying? The European model, I don't have a graphic queued up to be able to show it to you, but the morning run of the European model actually took the storm more over Hispaniola, got it churned up a little bit by the mountainous terrain of Hispaniola and even a little bit of Cuba as well, and brought the storm a little bit farther west, more into the Gulf of Mexico, but a much, much weaker system at that point. And that's the way it would be. If it goes farther west, it's going to have more land interaction and it's going to be a lot weaker. But the European model yesterday was showing it going east, and now it got hung up on Hispaniola, which is a big thing. It's certainly still possible. So the land interaction over the next 12 hours is going to be really big in figuring out what model was right. Did it get past Hispaniola fine without too much of a hiccup, or did Hispaniola in the mountains there, even through Cuba, did it mess it up and it drag it a little bit farther to the west? So that's what the Euro said. The Euro, though, hasn't been very consistent. It's been flip-flopping a little bit. And when models do that, that just tells us they're really not sure, and doesn't have a good handle on the system right now. So, but look, things can change, and that's why I really want to be cautious about saying like, oh, it's going east, no worries here for Tampa Bay. So, Angela, well, you said, does it bring it into the Gulf? It could bring it into the Gulf. It kind of brought it up right into Florida, which was what it was saying early this morning. So, but that, again, that would be a much, much weaker system, and honestly, it's an outlier at this point. Steven saying, are we going to get any rain from Isaias? We could get some showers, but most of the rain is going to be on the eastern side of the storm. So there's a possibility we see some rain from the system, but honestly, it could end up being a really nice weekend, maybe a little breezy. But if this storm system's strong enough and it consolidates enough, and let me pull this system back up here so we can look at it. You want to see the path? If it consolidates enough, then I think most of the precipitation would be either on the East Coast or out over the Atlantic. So there's a possibility that we may not actually see any rain from this tropical storm. Again, a lot of that's going to depend on how it evolves over the next 12 to 24 hours. Will the Northeast get much of it? Let me show you. That's Laura Lee asking this question. So the Northeast could definitely see some impacts from this. Now, again, most of your impacts are going to be on the eastern side, but you can see, and I'll zoom in here, going into Tuesday morning, that storm could be close to, let's see, where is that? That's like Maryland there, Delaware, but it looks like it steers clear. Honestly, I think the bigger concern would be North Carolina, obviously the outer banks of North Carolina. It'll start to clear away from the coast by that point. So, guys, I hope that answered your questions. I'm tight on time here this morning, and I've got to start getting ready for our noon show, but I want to make sure that I got an update out to you guys real quick as soon as I could with the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center. I'm going to have a lot more of this and talk more about it during our midday show on 10 Tampa Bay, but you can also head over to our website. We've got our teams working behind the scenes to get a lot more information available for you on our website on 10tampabay.com. We've also got the same information, if not more, on our app. So a lot of great information there, guys. I appreciate you checking in this morning, and keep checking back for more updates as this storm navigates its way around the land down there in the Caribbean, from Puerto Rico over to Dominican Republic and Haiti. It'll be interesting to see what happens as we get into 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock later on tonight. So guys, take care, be safe, and we'll talk to you soon.